Good evening, Internet. Welcome to another episode of Friday Night Songwriting Highlights. This is the show where I play a song for you, and then I tell you a little bit about why I think it's a good song. The selection for this evening is XTC's Making Plans for Nigel. It's off their fourth album, Drums and Wires, from 1979. Stick around and have a listen.
Nigel, we only want what's best for him. We're only making plans for Nigel. Nigel just needs this helping hand. And if young Nigel says he's happy, he must be happy, he must be happy. He must be happy in his work. We're only making plans for Nigel. He has his future in British steel. We're only making plans for Nigel. Nigel's future is as good as sealed. And if young Nigel says he's happy, he must be happy, he must be happy, he must be happy in his work. Nigel is not outspoken, but he likes to speak and he loves to be spoken to. Nigel is happy in his work. In his work. Nigel is happy in his work. In his. We're only making plans for Nigel. We only want what's best for him. We're only making plans for Nigel. Nigel just needs this helping hand. And if young Nigel says he's happy, he must be happy, he must be happy, he must be happy in his work. Just needs this helping hand. We're only making plans for Nigel. He has his future in British steel. Steel, 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 steel. We're only making plans for Nigel. Best for him. We're only making plans for Nigel. We only want what's best for him. We're only making plans for Nigel.
Well, that's my interpretation of Making Plans for Nigel by XTC. I think this is a really interesting song for a lot of reasons. It comes from an era of the post-punk meets what is soon to be 80s pop music. This song incorporates aspects of dubstep, pop, punk, rock and roll, pretty much everything that people were playing with at that time in the late 70s. and it mixes them all together in a really interesting and effective way that really foreshadows what the 80s sound is going to be like. The drumming is a really good example of the kind of spacious driving rhythms that can be picked up later in the 80s. There's a lot of reverb on everything, there's compression on the drums, and it gives it an overall, a very distinctive sound that kind of places it right in the era when it was made. That is to say, the late 70s. Now, the bassist for XTC actually wrote this song, and he was not the principal songwriter, but this was the band's first big hit. So it created an interesting dynamic in the band where the other members said that the bassist became quite imperious for a while, and it kind of went to his head. He started living with the band's manager and basically just acting like he was more important than anybody else in the band. This didn't last long. They didn't have to kick him out or anything, and they continue to play together to this day, so that's pretty inspiring. The song's not exactly autobiographical, but it incorporates elements of the life of the writer here. So basically, when the band was in high school, they toured some factories as places where they could get employment once they graduated and became adults. In one of these factories, a man who was working there in a factory line called out to the boys and said, "You don't want to work here," and grumbled as if, I think the quote in the article says, felt like he was in the seventh circle of hell. So there is basically this sense of being bullied into a life of drudgery by society, and that's the message of the song. The main narrator of the song are Nigel's parents, who want him to have a good life, who want him to be happy, but who never really listen to him and essentially just force him into working for British Steel and force him into this life of the daily grind that is essentially inescapable. So now that's all well and good, and I think that those components make this a good song. What I think makes this a truly great song is the concept of the song, the idea of being forced into this machine of society, into working in a British steel factory, and how the music also kind of represents this. The music has a very industrial, metallic quality to it, with a lot of repetitive rhythms that kind of suggest this repetition of a steel mill, the repetition of an assembly line, the repetition of a life that you can't escape because you don't have anything else that you can do. So all those components come together in a really interesting way and really make this song stand out for me. Just a quick note as to the length of time it took me to put this out. Yeah, it's taken me several weeks to get this video together. There was a lot of technical issues. I lost several sessions on Pro Tools, had to redo all the guitar tracks twice. There was no end to the problems, and that's what took me a little bit longer. Well, thanks very much for listening, and if you stuck around till the end, please like, subscribe, share, and comment, because it'll help this channel grow. And remember, go out there and write a song. It's easier than you think.